Hi, this is Teresa from My Crochet Obsession. I want to crochet some freeform today, and I hope you'll stitch along with me. So grab some yarn and a hook. And today we're going to learn how to crochet this freeform mesh to go around any other motif. In a previous episode, we learned how to make this bullion block flower, and this is a sample I made today to show you how we can incorporate those flowers, or any flower for that matter, with a freeform design that involves this beautiful mesh that very much resembles Irish crochet. I will put a link in the description. I found it whenever I began my freeform crochet journey that if I started with something that I was familiar with, it was a good springboard for other ideas. Now here are some samples that I made earlier today, smaller ones, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make a smaller one just to get the idea of how to make this freeform mesh. And you can see how they can work together like a little puzzle. You join them with like stitches that you already have, or even some different stitches for that matter. You could come through and put some more bullion block stitches, or we can insert a flower and join them together with flowers, maybe something like this, and join the stitches and insert the flowers too. There's any number of ways that this works. I'm using the same 3-weight yarn that I used to make the flowers, and I'm using a 3.75 millimeter hook. Now, just like a lot of things in crochet, this does begin with a slip stitch, and the mesh only has 2 different stitches, probably the first 2 stitches that you learn to make: chains and a single crochet. Now, each one of these cells is made with a different number of chains. And my cells are all different sizes, so that is determined by the length of the chain. So I'm going to come through first because it's the 12th of the month. I'm going to start with 12. 4, 5. After you get the number of chains that you want, and any number, I recommend not to go under like 7 or 8 because the cells begin to get so small, unless there is an exception to that. If you're using fingering weight yarn, you can make your chains smaller, but still they're going to get so small it's going to be hard to put very many single crochets in there. But that may be the look you're wanting. You may want little tiny little cells, and it'll look more like foam. These remind me a lot of bubbles or rocks on the ground. All right, now we've come back and made a ring by slip stitching into the first chain. Then we're going to chain 1, and I'm going to crochet over a little bit of my yarn end until I can clip it. So put single crochets, and you can put as many single crochets as you want to in here. The more you put, the rounder your cell. I call each one of these segments a cell. The rounder it's going to become, and the tighter you put them, the firmer the fabric, the less drape, more rigid it becomes, and that is going to be totally up to you. There's no formula unless you make it so. Many people call freeform crochet breaking all the rules. I just think it's a modification, because when there are no rules, then how can you break them? So now we've come through. I'm not going to completely fill this ring with single crochets. You can, and then you take your next cell from there. But I'm going to come back later and complete this. Okay. Now I'm going to build my second cell, and I'm going to choose a different number. I started with 12. I'm going to go to 9 this time. 9 chains, or something like it. I think I lost count. Now I'm going to come back to one of the single crochets already in the ring, and I'm going to pull that loop through. I'm going to come back a little ways though, because I don't want to cause some intersections in here. I don't want to form any spokes. You can. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just not the look that I want for this piece. Okay, so I've got my second cell, and I chain 1 to close that stitch, and then go back to my single crochets. The only thing I'm concerned about when I put in my single crochets is that I'm covering the chains. That's the only thing. That I don't count them necessarily. I just come up a little ways. And again, I am not going to completely fill in this second chain space. I am going to now make a third cell. This time I'm going to chain 11. 1, 2, okay, make sure you're on the front of your work, and this time I'm going to come back to the first cell that I made, and in these somewhere in here, right here, I'm going to insert my hook and pull through that loop, and now I have 3 cells, and they're kind of in a circle, sort of. Chain 1 to close that stitch, and single crochet. You can adjust your single crochet to get them as close to one another as you want. Remember, the only purpose of them is to cover the chain. If they're really tight, it will make your the crochet fabric that you're making, it'll make it a little more rigid. And that also is dependent on the kind of yarn that you're using. Pulling out some more yarn there. And I'm going to put in a few more stitches here. And then I'm going to add another cell. And this is the process. Now, one thing I probably should have explained whenever we were getting started. If you're right-handed, then your chains where you join them on the previous cell is you're going to join to the right, joining from underneath and pulling the loop up. Then you single crochet back to the left. If you're left-handed, of course, the tops of your single crochets are going in the other direction. Therefore, whenever you chain up, you're going to build your piece to the left. You're going to join your chains on the left, and then single crochet back to the right. Okay, so whichever hand is your dominant hand, you're going to build your piece from that side. Okay, and that is clear as mud. But as you begin to actually do this, because crochet is learned by doing, then it'll be clear. Okay, now I'm going to chain up again. I'm going to add another cell to this previous cell. So I'm going to chain up 9. And I'm going to come about a third of the way. On that previous cell and pull up the loop. chain one, and start adding my single crochets. And as you're working your piece, again, adjust your single crochets as needed to have them all close to the same distance apart, and that way they have the same feel. The texture to the piece is about the same. All right, now we're to the place. Remember, don't be concerned. I know that these chain spaces here on the outside have not been covered yet with single crochets. That's okay. We're going to come back and do that. Just a moment. Now let's make one more cell, an additional cell, and let's go back to our number 11. 11 chains. Pull up a loop, and let's come pretty close to where our intersection here is, but let's come up about 4 stitches. Chain 1 to close that stitch, and then insert single crochets, but I'm only going to go up 4 or 5 stitches, and then I'm going to build another cell because I'm coming around. I want to get close to that very first cell that we made. Need to pull out some yarn here. And I'm going to chain 8. 6, 7, 8. So that's going to be one of the smaller cells. But I'm going to come over here to this large one here. I'm going to skip this cell right here. And I'm going to come in and join right in here about 4 away from that intersection. 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert the hook, pull up the loop from the back. And single crochet to, chain 1 to close the stitch, and then single crochet in that chain space. Okay, adjust the stitches a little bit, make them match the rest of the work. All right, let's look at our work. Okay, that's looking interesting. All right, let's put let's have another cell here, and let's go to number 12. That is 12 chains, and let's come back about 6 stitches from where we left off there. Sorry, I keep getting out of frame. Put 5 single crochets in that chain space. I'm going to now chain over to right in there. If I chain over and come right here, I'm going to be exactly where the beginning of that very first cell, whenever I began that, and I don't want to go there because I'm going to end up there, so it'll make it bulky with stitches. So I'm going to come in right here, and then we're going to start going back around. So I'm going to do chain up 5. Pull up a loop, and pull it through right here. Okay, now we're going to chain 1 to complete the stitch. Now we're going to go all the way back on the outside edge and put single crochet all the way around this piece and be finished with this particular freeform motif. Fun fact, individual freeform motifs are actually called scrumbles. Now, as we get to the intersection of these two cells right here, I'm going to insert the hook in the side of that last single crochet from the previous cell, and I'm going to pull up a loop and complete a single crochet. And then I'm going to insert the hook in that next chain and begin the single crochet. That makes a nice transition between the two cells, and it also holds the piece together so you don't get a big hole there where those two cells join on this outside rim. Now there's a lot of fun things that you can do with this motif from here. You could all the way around here, say every 5 and 3 at random spaces, you could put some picots. You could add some beads if you wanted. There's any number of things. It's only limited to your own creativity, imagination on this freeform motif. Now we're at another intersection, so we're going to insert our hook into the side of that single crochet, pull up a loop, and single crochet. And then insert your hook into the next chain space and proceed with your single crochets. And you're at another intersection here. Insert the hook in the side of that single crochet, pull up a loop, and single crochet. And into the next chain space. We're almost around. This gets kind of fidgety to handle to get all these single crochets in here. All right, and we're in the last cell now. We've made our transition into the side of that single crochet, and we only have a few to go. And what's fun about this particular freeform motif is that all the different shapes that you get. That's why this is so much fun to just do these. Oh no, I've got one more. It's fun to just make these and then look at all the different shapes, and I just like to do it. It's the easy thing to just sit and mindlessly crochet if you've got a lot of these that you want. The fun thing about this in freeform is you can make these small ones and then just insert them randomly, not connect them to one another, but just randomly throughout the piece, and it adds a lot of interest and texture. Okay, I'm in the last stitch. I am going to make a single crochet, and I'm going to insert the hook into one more and pull up a loop. Now many people with their freeform crochet just leave all their yarn ends and they use those to attach them later. That makes me a crazy woman, and I have to weave in my ends as I go, or I can't stand it. So, all right, and that is how the freeform mesh is done. And then you see we have the opportunity to put these together like a puzzle and make something really interesting and abstract. Also add some flowers maybe, and then put this in. Maybe put a flower over here, and then another flower maybe over here. Anyway, it's fun to play with and fun to make decisions and make it work. Thank you for joining me today for this freeform mesh motif. We will explore this form further in future episodes. If you got anything out of this tutorial, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our tutorials. And I have a Facebook group for Freeform called the Freeform Crochet Buddies, as well as a My Crochet Obsession Facebook group, and those are there so that you can post the work that you create as a result of these tutorials. And I hope you will take a look at those and become a part of our group. And thank you for joining me today. Stay inspired and keep calm. Crochet on.